she thought her past was buried. Just another Marine maintaining a Barrett 50. But when the SEAL commander noticed the way she held the rifle, her secret life began to surface. What he uncovered would drag her back into shadows she swore she'd left behind. Ava tightened the last screw on the Barrett 50. The weapon gleamed under the harsh armory lights, heavy and silent, like it was waiting for a command no one dared to give. She wiped the oil from her hands and glanced at the broken watch sitting by her toolkit. The second hand was frozen at 0217. It hadn't ticked in years, but she never threw it away. The armory was quiet. Marines drifted in and out, dropping off rifles, collecting gear. Nobody questioned Ava's speed, her precision. To them, she was simply good, too good. They didn't know what it meant for a person to memorize the feel of every spring, every trigger, every micro-scratch on steel. She knew too much for someone with just 3 years of Marine service. When the new SEAL commander walked in, she felt it instantly. His boots were heavy but measured. His eyes scanned everything, the rifles, the logs, and finally her hands. She didn't look up, but her muscles knew they were being watched. He asked about maintenance reports, made small comments about barrel tolerances, harmless words. But his voice carried recognition, like he was reading her movements instead of her answers. Ava pretended not to notice. She kept working, kept her eyes on the weapon, but inside something old stirred, like dust rising from a road she thought she'd left far behind. That night in her bunk, she held the broken watch in her palm. Time had stopped once before. Maybe it was about to stop again. The next morning, the commander came back. This time, he didn't bother with questions about paperwork. He leaned close as she calibrated the trigger pressure. "That adjustment," he said quietly. "Where did you learn it?" Ava froze. The adjustment wasn't Marine standard. It belonged to another life, another Ava. Her grip slipped, just slightly. But he saw it, and for the first time in years, she felt her cover cracking. The commander's gaze was steady. Ava gave her usual cover story. Manuals, curiosity, practice. Lies polished smooth from years of use. But he didn't blink. Instead, he picked up a precision gauge from her bench. Not standard issue. She shouldn't even have it. "Where'd you get this?" Her throat tightened. That tool belonged to people who didn't exist. People who built weapons for shadows, not armies. That night, Ava lay in her bunk, staring at her empty wallet. The leather was cracked, thin. Once it had carried more than IDs and folded bills. It had carried a photograph, her real name scrawled on the back. That photo was gone now, burned with the past, but the commander's words had brought it back. The following afternoon, he returned. He didn't stand across the room. He sat down, elbows on the bench, eyes fixed on hers. "Have you ever received training outside the Corps?" It was a question with a trigger in it. One wrong word could blow everything open. Before she could answer, he added, "Because if you have, maybe we have more in common than you think." For the first time, Ava looked him straight in the eyes. What she saw wasn't accusation. It was recognition, and the empty wallet in her bunk suddenly felt heavier than any rifle. The name fell like a blade. Sarah Chen, her old life. Her shadow life, Ava, Sarah, whatever she was now, stared at the rifle on the bench. The steel reflected the fluorescent light like water under a burning sun. She remembered a dusty road in Eastern Europe, a village where the target was supposed to be alone. She remembered the children who weren't supposed to be there. The order in her ear, the shot she took anyway, 3 children gone, and her soul with them. That was the day Sarah Chen died on paper, burned in a staged car wreck, reborn as Ava Martinez, Marine specialist, nothing more. But the commander had been part of the hunt. He'd read the reports. He knew the mission, the mistake, the resignation letter that never got answered, and now he was staring at her, waiting. "Sarah Chen died," she said at last. Her voice was steady. "Only Ava Martinez is left." He didn't call her a liar. He didn't threaten to expose her. Instead, he said, "Then maybe we both know what it's like to walk away." For a moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not safety, not trust, but the faint shadow of hope. Then the delivery arrived. A shipment of new tools. Buried in the crates was something that shouldn't exist. A specialized scope kit. And inside it, a note in handwriting she knew too well. "The shadows remember what the light forgets." Her blood turned cold. The note was a trap. A hook. The next day, her phone buzzed. No name, just a message, coffee. 1400, Denny's. Alone, Ava knew better, But she went. Morrison hadn't changed much. Older, sharper lines in his face, but the same predator behind the smile. He spoke her buried name like a spell. Sarah Chen, she tried to kill it. It's Ava Martinez now. He laughed. Death certificates, staged wrecks, new names, he had seen it all. He slid a tablet across the table. A Russian arms dealer, Viktor Petrov. Your reputation precedes you. He only trusts Sarah Chen. Ava shoved the tablet back. Not my world anymore. Morrison leaned closer, voice low and sharp. Then maybe Ava Martinez goes to prison. Fraud, desertion, treason. Choose. Back at base, she dropped the empty wallet on her bench and pressed her palms to her face. Morrison had her boxed in, but the commander was waiting. He had done his own digging. Morrison wasn't official anymore. He was rogue, desperate. What if we turn it back on him? The commander asked. Ava looked up, the broken watch ticking silently in her memory. For the first time she considered it. Dubai glittered like glass and fire. Ava walked in as Sarah Chen, forged papers in hand, wires hidden under her clothes. The commander and his team listened from above. Petrov greeted her with champagne, with caviar, with the smile of a man who killed through contracts and bank transfers. He opened a briefcase. Cash, photos, targets. And then he said Morrison's name. Said they'd been working together for over a year. Said Morrison had sold him secrets that weren't for sale. Every word was recorded. Every sentence a nail in Morrison's coffin. But then the door rattled. A guard whispered about agents in the lobby. Petrov's comm cracked. Passports flew from his safe. His men moved toward the service elevator, and then the suite exploded with gunfire. Ava dove behind a couch, the Barrett's weight still ghosting in her hands though she carried only a pistol. In her ear the commander's voice. Stay down. We're coming. When the smoke cleared, Petrov was bleeding, his guards gone. The evidence intact, and Morrison, handcuffed, furious, was dragged through the doorway. You should have stayed dead, he hissed at her. Ava's eyes flicked to the broken watch in her memory. Maybe time was moving again. The secure room was cold. Federal prosecutors laid evidence across the table. Cash, contracts, recordings. Enough to bury Petrov and Morrison forever. They offered her immunity. A new background. A chance to be untouchable. The commander found her staring at the skyline. How do you feel? Ava touched the broken watch in her pocket. The hands were still frozen, but inside something was finally moving. For the first time, she said, I feel free. Back at Camp Pendleton months later, she tightened the screws on another Barrett 50. The steel was the same. Her hands were the same. But Ava Martinez was no longer a disguise. The empty wallet still lay in her bunk, waiting. The dusty road still haunted her dreams. But the watch, though broken, was no longer a weight. It was a reminder. She wasn't running anymore. She was exactly where she chose to be. And when the commander passed by, nodding without words, Ava allowed herself the smallest smile. The past hadn't vanished. But it had been rewritten in her own hand. 3 months had passed. The armory had become ordinary again. Rifles in, rifles out. Ava's hands steady, her logs flawless. The commander kept his distance, only nodding when their paths crossed. For the first time in years, her life felt almost normal, but normal never lasted. It started with a package, a plain brown box, no return label, delivered with the rest of the weekly supplies. She opened it and found a small mirror wrapped in cloth. Old, cracked across the middle like a scar frozen in glass. At the bottom was a slip of paper. Shadows never sleep. Her stomach turned cold. Morrison was gone, locked in a federal cell. Petrov was awaiting trial. But the handwriting on that note wasn't Morrison's. Someone else was watching. That night, Ava couldn't sleep. She sat on her bunk, holding the cracked mirror in her hands. In the fractured glass, her face split into pieces. Ava on one side, Sarah on the other. Neither whole. The next morning, she reported it to the commander. He examined the note, his jaw tight. Morrison had allies, contractors, not all of them went down with him. Ava felt her pulse quicken. Then they know about me. They know enough, he said grimly, which means they'll come looking. For days, she carried the cracked mirror in her pocket. It pressed against her leg like a wound she couldn't stitch shut. Every time she touched it, she wondered who else was out there, who had written those words. The answer came one evening on the firing range. She was test firing the Barrett for the snipers. After 3 perfect shots, she lowered the rifle and found a figure leaning casually against the fence. Tall, civilian clothes, sunglasses even in the fading light. He lifted his hand in a mock salute. Then he was gone. The cracked mirror felt heavier in her pocket. The commander moved fast. Security was doubled. Patrols increased, but Ava knew it wouldn't matter.